Hello. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Mas, I would like to thank you for being here at a short notice. We had a presentation last Friday, and this presentation has been put together at a short notice. I would like to invite today Mr. David Rax and Ms. Mickey Ando from Lab Architecture Studio. I would like to thank Mr. Ashish Krishnaswamy for coordinating this link. Small introduction, and before I get into it, I would also like to welcome today the representative of the State Government of Victoria, Australia, Mr. Jeffrey Conagan. He's a commissioner to India, and his team who are here with us. Small introduction to Lab Architecture. Lab Architecture Studio is a firm of architects and urban designers based in Melbourne, Australia, with international offices in London and Beijing. Lab Architecture Studio works comprise of urban design projects, master planning projects, civic and cultural projects, retail spaces, commercial, residential, and resort projects. Key projects commissioned, to name a few from an exhaustive list, are Federation Square in Australia, BMW Design Center in Germany. We have with us today Mr. David Rax, Associate Director of Lab, and Ms. Mickey Ando. Small introduction to both of them. David Rax was educated at the Architectural Association London and at the Cooper Union, New York. David has had a successful career in leading a design studio at the Architectural Association between 1987 and 1996, and again between 2000 and 2005. David has been an Associate Director of Lab for 8 years. He worked on the Stage 1 and Stage 2 submissions for the Federation Square project and is currently the project leader on the new Museum of Bristol, which started on site in January 2008. Mickey Ando first joined Lab during the competition for the Federation Square in 1996. She has since worked on a wide range of projects, including commercial, retail, industrial, and residential. Mickey has worked extensively on architectural competitions and documentation, including the master plan for the Paris 2012 Olympic Village and successful bid for the Museum of Bristol. She has led the studio design team for Museum of Bristol construction documentation, playing a key role in the coordination with contractors, subcontractors, consultants, and various stakeholders. I now call upon both of them to please come and take the stage.
Good evening. Thank you all for coming at such short notice. Thank you also to Mr. Pol and to Anand and Mr. Krishnaswamy as well for organizing this, and to the whole organization. I'm very appreciative of that. I have to tell you, you came at very short notice. It was also equally short notice for me. I think we were expecting to talk to 5 or 6 people, so this is a surprise. And so forgive me if it's a little bit rough around the edges. We wanted to give a presentation on sustainability. Maybe Mickey, you want to introduce a little bit the first part?
Our company, as we introduced kindly, our main office is Melbourne, and we also have office in Shanghai, London, Dubai, and Delhi. Our portfolio ranges quite wide typology. Some are master planning, some are residential, commercial, retail. Scale also varies as well, so small, sometimes something around 2,000 square meter of single villa to 1,800 hectare master plan. So,
as I said, I wanted primarily to give a talk on sustainability, and we were going to go through sort of essentially six sections. We're going to spend about half a talk on our key project in Melbourne, which is called Federation Square, and I'm going to bounce between a technical presentation of 3 buildings on that project with the sustainable aspect behind those. And then we're going to talk about a series of other projects where our approach or sustainability has been key to our approach with all of those. And then we're going to end on a little sort of a post note. If you'd like to ask any questions, please interrupt. I'm very happy to do that. If I speak too fast, please also shout, you know. So the first project is Federation Square. This is a project that we built about 10 years ago in Melbourne. It's built on the central part of Melbourne. This is the main railway station, or one of the 4 main railway stations, Flinders Street, and these are the railway tracks coming in, and behind here is the central business district. And our project was essentially to build a deck over the whole of this area, and to create a new square. And this was a square which was the first real public square in Melbourne, which was a gathering place, a place for celebration, and it was also a square that was made to celebrate the centenary of the Federation of the States of Australia. So it was quite an important government project at the time. And this is a series of civic buildings surrounding it. So this is the National Gallery of Victorian Art. This is a large glazed galleria, which has got there's an open streets, essentially, which all the foyers open onto. There are a series of other institutions, like the SBS, like the Australian Centre for the Moving Image, and then some other public buildings around that. And the plan is all these buildings are arranged around this square. So this is the NGVA, which I'll talk about in a few moments. This is the Galleria, which is this long glazed street with an open end here onto the road and an auditorium at the other end. And then the square itself, which is not so much a square as a kind of a V. And this V is focused, the square slopes down towards this building here, which becomes a kind of a focal point on that V, so that you can have a few people here, or you can have many people here, and all directed towards a stage or a screen which is on that end. This is a view looking from the screen, then back up the square. This is the Galleria, the glazed street behind, and then these are the facades around that. And you can get a sense of that slope as it leads up that way, which is quite important, because in the summer, on good days, this is where people will sit, and look at the screen. So, and this is a view of it full. This image here is the Stop the War March, where there were 45,000 people in the square towards the speaker, which is on the screen. This is the place on this first New Year's Eve, on the opening night. And that's a view of the screen. And this screen is run, again, it has a series of events that are organized and programmed by the organizing group of Federation Square. So they organize about 400 activities. So they will screen, for instance, cricket, which should be all a big topic for you guys, on this. And like when there's done at night, this will be where the cricket is played and people will be watching that. And around the square are a series of smaller spaces which can be activated and changed and transformed, again, during these activities. So this is a set of stairs which is changed into a theatre at different times, or is used for other activities. And the facade is a kind of a really key part. It's achieved a sort of almost iconic status in Melbourne. That image here is an image that we were asked to make for Absolute Vodka, for their advertising campaign in Australia. They gave us the L, as a kind of as an addition. But the square features on things like the telephone directory. It's just become part of a whole iconic part of Melbourne. And the first part I'm going to talk about is some of those facades, which we developed as unwrapped. So it was a series of unwrapped facades. And depending on what was the program on the building in which they enclosed would depend upon the degree of transparency or the kind of materials we would use. So essentially it's a mix of either sandstone or metal mesh or nothing, or metal panels, zinc panels. So for instance, like on something which is a cinema, you would have, or an art gallery, you would have very little transparency. On something which was an office building, you would have a great deal more transparency. So again, it's a very adaptable facade. And it's entirely triangulated. It's made up of isosceles triangles, which are combined in a series of different patterns. And those triangles are made up of these materials which are all combined into one single panel, which we call, so 5 isosceles triangles which make up one panel. And then we take 5 of those panels, so that's one of the smaller ones, and we then create what we call a mega panel. And those mega panels are then always one single material. We won't mix materials within that. That's an example of one mega panel. So you can identify those 5. This is upside down one, another one up that way. This is a sandstone panel, and those are then organized on the facade. And because of the way the patterns are created, there are certain natural breakpoints or break lines which allow us to fold the facade around those buildings. So the dimensions of the buildings are coordinated with those panels. And it's actually a very simple concrete floor slab against which are then placed these steel, what we call soldiers, which are bent and curved, and they make up this shape, depending on what's there. And within this area, we also then have all the escape stairs. We have all the escape stairs. We also keep the plant rooms, and all the other servicing within those side parts. So that's a view of the panel, which you can see although it's those materials, they change. They change upon where the light is coming from, so they'll become reflective. They'll change if it's raining, because the sandstone will absorb the rain. They have different thicknesses, so you get shadow lines that are created within that, and there's quite a variety and quite a degree of alteration within that. Another key element is what we call the Galleria, which is this public street. This is one end of the Galleria. It's a street which is 110 meters long. It's about 15 meters high and about 15 meters wide, and entirely glazed on the walls. And at this end, completely open. And again, that was a really key part, because we wanted a street which was very welcoming, where there were no doors, because all the foyers for these other institutions link into that. And it's part of the urban planning within the square, which is essentially occupying half a city block. Because within Melbourne, although we have long streets, or long blocks, long sides and short sides, through the middle of that, we have a series of small passageways which are called laneways. And within that, there are a series of little sort of cafes and smaller shops that give a very beautiful grain to the city. So it's not just these large blocks you would find, like, say, in New York or something. And this is kind of a part of one of those laneways. At the other end of that is the BMW Edge, which is an auditorium in which there are a series of events, fashion events, talks by politicians, small concerts. It's hired out, and it's part of one of those activities that happen. This is the view of that at night from the outside, from the Yarra River. And this is a section through the whole square. You can see the trains underneath it. The BMW Edge is at this side. This is the foyer to the NGVA. This is like the other side, like the opening onto the street. And the structure, this is an image of just the steel structure. So this is 200 millimeter square tubes, steel tubes. This is the end of the opening with a big cantilever. And there, essentially, it's what's called a pinwheel structure, which again, it's entirely triangulated. It's two triangulated walls, which are then separated and then triangulated within that. And the engineers have then gone through and removed what is the redundant structure, those elements that are not required. And we have only 3 joints. And those 3 joints, depending on their orientation, will give us the complexity that you see on that facade. So this is an example of a section of the facade where all those other redundant triangulated elements have been removed. So it's stable and still triangulated, even though you don't see any triangles within it. And this is a view then down the street. Now, the issue for us was that this was a key aspect, this open street and this glazed, very light, welcoming foyer space. And the issue was then, how do you take that circumstance